Have you experienced someone or something that has made you angry? Have you ever had someone arrogantly tell you you are wrong? And if that wasn't bad enough, at the very same dinner party, your loved one, who knows perfectly well that you're actually right, gently pats your hand and quietly tells you, there, calm down, dear. And meanwhile, across the table, another well-intentioned Good Samaritan, in a sickly, sweet tone, offers, being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You whisper through gritted teeth, I am not angry. And on the surface, these external factors seem to push your buttons, and you have no choice and are perfectly justified to explode. But what if the truth was that it is impossible for anyone to make you angry? That you have been deceiving yourself all this time, and that no one and no thing can make or force you to be angry? Consider the question, can someone make or force you to be happy? You say, well, no one can force me to be happy. That's my choice. But doesn't that mean that getting angry is also a choice? The story of the Buddha and the angry man is a beautiful portrayal of the principle that no one can make you angry. No one can force you to be angry. It also subtly shows that very often the angry person does not even realize that they are angry. The Buddha was sitting in the shade of a tree when an angry man came upon him. The angry man started yelling insults at the Buddha, who continued to sit calmly and say nothing. The man screamed and hurled more abuse, but he received no response. After a short while, the angry man could not keep up his anger at such a level and finally asked, "Do you have nothing to say?" The Buddha responded with a question. If someone gives you a gift and you do not want it, to whom does it belong? The man answered that it must remain with the giver of the gift. The Buddha then said, I refuse to accept your anger. You will have to keep it yourself. The angry man is said to have become a disciple of the Buddha. So the story suggests that you do not have to accept anger from another, that no one can make you, force or compel you to be angry. The common tendency, however, is to say that he or she or they made me so angry, and we repeat and say this so often to ourselves and in so many situations that we believe this to be true. Consider making a cup of tea for a loved one who happens to be in a bad mood. You offer them the tea and they say, "Too cold." You heat it up and they say, "Needs more milk." You bring the milk. They say, "More sugar." You bring more sugar. They say, "Cup and saucer don't match." You fetch the matching saucer, and by this time you want to crack it over their head. You are convinced that their unreasonable demands and inconsiderate nature make you so angry. The Buddha says no. Whether or not you get angry is your choice. But how? How possibly could you not get annoyed or enraged with all these demands? Have you ever played tea party with a young child? They make you a cup of tea and you say it's too cold. They take the little toy cup to the pretend kitchen, pretend to heat it up, and you say, "It needs more milk." And they race off and can't wait to add the milk. You say, "Not enough sugar," and they squeal with delight every time the tea needs improvement. Now, it may be much easier interacting with a 3-year-old compared to a grumpy ingrate. But the principle is there. It is still a choice whether or not you succumb to the tyranny of anger. If the angry patient walks into the psychologist's office and abuses them, saying, "You're fat and ugly and you're way overcharged and you're hopeless and you have no friends," the good psychologist doesn't take the bait. They say, "How interesting you think this." And their concern is for the treatment, for the suffering patient, and how to help them. The good psychologist is full of empathy. And it is not just people that we believe that make us angry. It can be flat batteries, late buses, spilled spaghetti sauce, satellite navigation systems, even traffic lights are believed to be the root cause of our anger. But Google Maps doesn't care in the slightest if you make a wrong turn. Traffic lights are indifferent to the amount of times they turn red, and you can yell and swear and scream, but there is only one person in this scenario that is suffering, and the Buddha suggests that it is all self-inflicted. When we believe the cause of our anger is something external to ourselves, that something or someone has forced or compelled us to be angry, then we are telling ourselves that we are not responsible for the anger. If we're not responsible for the anger, then it is justified. And once it is justified, it's not our fault. Then we are blameless, and we are free to be as miserable and as angry as our practiced ignorance allows. And it doesn't matter how large or bad the apparent injustice is. Whether to accept anger or not is always a choice. The Dalai Lama was famously asked, "Aren't you angry with the Chinese?" He replied, "They have taken everything from us. Should I let them take my mind as well?" Nelson Mandela was asked how he could have invited to his presidential inauguration those who had imprisoned him for 27 years. "Weren't you angry?" Mandela replied, "Well, yes, actually, for the first 13 years I was rather angry." But he described a moment when he was out in the prison yard and he reflected that the state had taken away his physical freedom. They could force him to work and adopt to their timetable, and that they were also largely responsible for the breakdown of his marriage and family. But though the state could take all this away from him, there were two things that remained his. He said his mind and his heart were his own, that if he held on to the anger, that he gave up his freedom to love. Fortunately, he chose not to be angry, not to imprison his own mind and heart, and the world is a better place for his choice. When the loved one reminds us and says, there, dear, calm down," and we want to remove their windpipe, there is deep down a recognition of a choice. Deep, deep down, the still small inner voice of wisdom says, they are actually right, and we do have an option to let go. So the Buddha is saying that you don't have to accept, to carry around any unwanted gifts of anger. There is a PS. No re-gifting.